Welcome to the Midwest Moguls Show, where we talk all things business, real estate, and entrepreneurship. Let's dive into today's episode and make business enjoyable again. Welcome back to the Midwest Moguls Show. Joe and I are here in the studio today. We're recording an episode on how to get into your first flip house, rental property, wholesale deal with little to no experience. So any newbie investors watching this, great episode. We're going to dive into things. We're going to cover as many details as we can in the next 15 to 20 minutes. So you can kind of have a plan in place to ultimately acquire your first deal, have your first profitable deal, and everything like that. But I guess the premise of this came from, I had a meeting the other day, fantastic meeting, but they're wanting to get into first flip property. So they're looking at other wholesale lists, everything like that. And the thing that came to my mind, and I would like your opinion on this as well, is when people are posting out wholesale deals, generally speaking, a lot of the wholesale deals, the numbers might be overinflated or underinflated in some way, shape, or form. So rehab costs might be perceived to be less than what they actually are, or ARVs after repair values are higher than what the reality actually is. So what I was telling this individual is, okay, obviously run things how you would generally run things. So verify the ARV, verify the rehab yourself. If everything works, offer at what you're comfortable offering at. Now, if that's lower than what the minimum suggested price is, then it's probably not a deal. And you should try to source deals off market.
Right.
And that's where, like, even on certain scenarios, and I guess, Joe, you give me your thoughts on this, is like, if you were out looking for your first flip property today or rental property, how would you go about doing that?
Yeah. And so there's a lot of different ways. And I mean, biggest thing is do your research. There's plenty of YouTube videos, plenty of podcasts that are out there that go through steps like we're going through right now. Don't just, listen to ours, listen to multiple ones. But I would say probably the biggest thing is just finding someone in your area or just someone that's near your area to basically mentor you and teach you, everything that they kind of know. That's one thing that for me personally, I benefited the most, and it's basically priceless. Yeah. I mean, the value that you get there, it basically just sets the ground, like the baseline of, okay, these are the types of properties that are, you'll be making more money versus like other ones, and just basically finding a property is going to be the hardest thing just by yourself. And you are probably going to try 50 to 100 different ways of finding a property and not knowing which one works best. So getting into, I guess, also like Facebook groups that, people are sharing their, experiences and success and everything like that. Because when it comes down to it, it's really pretty much just shooting. I mean, just throwing 100 different shots up and hoping that one hits. If you're not looking at, what the actual results are from past deals and past investors that have done just what you're looking to do. But looking on, Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, I know sometimes those are great places to find properties that seller or homeowners are looking to just sell their house as is and don't have a realtor involved. So that might be a great spot, and just trying to basically call as many people as possible and just going through that trial of error and, making offers. Obviously, you have to figure out how do you run those numbers. Again, going back to that mentor and watching, educational videos or podcasts and things like that. That's something that I've done personally. And it seemed to help me at least set up a guide of, okay, here's like the standard. Now, obviously, everybody's, I guess, location where they're at might be a little bit different numbers wise. So you had to kind of, change those, but at least it sets a good basis of, where to kind of start heading, and that sets out at least a path for you to go down.
Yeah. And I think everything that you just said is extremely, extremely valid. And when you're just getting started, there's a lot of overwhelm that comes with it. And if you can boil it down to the simplest things of, okay, you're not going to get a deal in whatever way, shape, or form you want, whether it's flipping, wholesaling, rental properties, anything like that, unless you're either specifically talking to owners or you're talking to wholesalers that you can buy from. Now, if you elect to talk with wholesalers, you are going to have to pay a hefty premium.
Right.
The margin's going to be significantly smaller. So that's where I would elect to go the direct to owner route because
Right.
you can negotiate back and forth with them. With wholesalers, there might not be a whole lot of wiggle room for negotiation because you don't ultimately know what they have it locked up for until you sign that assignment of contract.
Right.
So if we were just beginning again and going through this process, it's like, okay, we need reps. You need to have reps under your belt. You need to be talking to these owners. And then you might want to run the decisions that you make past someone with a little bit more experience. And I know, like, when we were just getting started, not even actually when we were just getting started, years into the process, like, we would venture into new areas. And I wasn't super familiar with them. And we had one in Waukesha, 4-unit property. We picked it up for something like stupid cheap. I think like $74,000 or something, like insane.
Yeah.
It was absolutely, it was assessed at like tax assessed, and tax assessed values are extremely low, like $240,000. And we were buying it for like $72,000. And I was so inexperienced at the time that I'm like, we did close on it, but we rushed through the process and we didn't seek multiple offers. We were dealing with some crazy tenants and we didn't have experience on our side to say, okay, let's slow this down. Let's get the tenants out. And then let's sell the place. Instead, we sold it to the first person who provided us an offer. I think they bought it for like $110. And we probably could have sold it for $155.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that simple thing of not taking your time, not literally reaching out to another investor in the market who might know it, and even offering, hey, would you want to do like a joint venture? Would you want to split this deal or whatever the case is? We would have made as much, if not more, going that route. And it's like those simple things in and of itself is, wow, I reflect back on that. I'm like, okay, yeah, I learned the lesson. We still made something, but could you have made more? Of course. Were you a little bit antsy? Of course, as most newer investors are. And that's why I think relationships are ultimately the most important thing. And then like us talking or me talking with other investors or you talking with other investors or people in the business, it's extremely, extremely valuable. And that's where, like, if you guys have questions and you're watching this or listening to this right now, shoot Joe or I a message, Facebook, Instagram, email, whatever's easiest on that side of things, because it's having a second set of eyes look at something.
It's huge.
It is.
It really is. Because I mean, when you're getting into it too, there's so many unknowns, and you second guess yourself every every turn basically that you make. So yeah, definitely reach out to us. Let us know what you're kind of working with, and just getting other people's opinions that have been in the game for a while now can be detrimental when it comes to putting you that much further in the real estate investing business. Just because, I mean, you can either, figure it all out by yourself. It'll take you a lot longer, and you might not even be on the right path.
Correct. And there's also something to be said about, like, if you're looking at your marketplace right now, and when I say marketplace, I'm talking about whether it's the local county or city or municipality that you're in, and you're like, how many deals are actually happening in this area? If there's only 2, 3, 4, 5 deals a month, maybe think about going elsewhere. Like, I know it's your backyard, you're familiar with it, you're comfortable with it, but you might have to bridge out 30, 45 minutes, an hour to be able to come across your first deal. And maybe your first deal isn't a flip. It might not be, or a rental property. You might have to get your feet wet with trying to wholesale or figuring that out or buying it and reselling it or whatever the case is, and structuring it in a way that you can gain experience, you can gain knowledge, even if you're not making a ton of money on the first time around. Like, you're gaining these skills that are invaluable over the course of a lifetime.
And I would even, suggest going the route of, okay, basically reach out to as many, homeowners as possible. Once you get a property at least under contract, that's the biggest thing. If anything, just send it out to your Facebook, investing groups or whatever, saying, hey, I got this deal. These are the numbers. Anybody interested? And just get that first deal done. Because the first one's always the hardest. But once you finally see a deal go from start to finish, you see the whole process, then you can start looking at, okay, reflecting on how that whole process went, how you might, make tweaks to make it a little bit more efficient. But at least That way you can get some sort of money in your pocket,
Correct.
get some success early on, and then move on to that next one. If that ends up being a flip, great. But, it's definitely very risky for someone to go straight into flipping a house right away, very first property, without knowing anything, nothing about the, the whole, rehab aspect or anything like that can be very overwhelming as well.
Yeah. It is. There's so many unknowns that can happen in a flip. And we even run into stuff now. It's like, okay, the budget was 30, we're at 45. Or the ARV was at 240, now we're at 220. Yep. It's like, okay, well, those are two things that could definitely sink you if it's your first project.
Yeah.
And that happens to investors. And then they get this sour taste in their mouth. They're like, yeah, this business isn't for me.
Right.
And then they leave so many future opportunities on the table. And I guess the thing that I wanted to bridge into now is, if you were looking at buying your first property and you didn't have the cash funds to do it, like say you had $10,000 saved, you had some lending contacts, whether it's Good Faith Funding, Hard Money Lender that we had on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, or any other people who are willing to lend to you, how would you structure or do your first deal if you had very limited funds? Like, what would you do on your side?
Meaning, like, who would I guess, get the lending from? Or
how would you do it? Like, say you're trying to be resourceful, and you know that, like, Good Faith Funding, they'll lend 65% of the after repair value, or hard money lenders in general. Like, we just use them, so that's why I reference them here on the podcast. But with Good Faith Funding, okay, 65% of the after repair value. So we'll say the house is worth $100,000, and obviously this is just for example purposes. They'll loan you $65,000 total, purchase plus rehab. Now, what if you bought that house for $60,000 and you had to stick $15,000 into it? It's like, where is the other funds coming from? How would you work that on your side?
I mean, there's a few different options, I guess, that you could go. One is reaching out to just friends and family. I think always start, with your close knit circle. There are a lot of family members out there that might be interested in, helping out on something like that. Obviously, make it advantageous for them to invest with you on that.
So what do you mean by that?
So like reaching out, like talking with your parents or even grandparents that might, they're retired. Maybe they have retirement money that's saved up, just, stocked away, not really doing much with it. And pitching them the idea of, hey, I'm purchasing this property. I'm going to be flipping it. These are the numbers. And I need X amount to finish up with a rehab.
What would you offer them in return for lending you the money? Like on your side, if this is your first deal again.
Honestly, I would go with like 10, 12, 15% return, or even just split it 50-50. At that point, it really doesn't matter. I honestly just even ask them, like, what would you want to, how would you want to, I guess, where would you feel safe to be able to invest this money with me? And how much type of, I guess, return do you want? Do you want the 50-50? Do you just want a percentage? Let them kind of make that decision, because at the end of the day, it's just getting that first deal done.
Correct. And that's what I allude to as well. It's like, okay, you're trying to get your first deal. You're trying to get your first handful of deals until you build up that track record, until you build up a little nest egg of money. And it's like the first few deals don't really matter. Like, you're not going to get rich off of 2 or 3 real estate transactions. It's the long-term approach to things. And that's where I think so many people take that for granted. It's like, okay, I'm willing to put in the work. I'm willing to put in the effort. I'll split everything with you 50-50 or whatever the case is. It's like, just do what you can to get that first one. And that's where, like, even us, I remember one of the first wholesale deals that we put under contract. We had to back out of the contract. And I think we contracted the place for like $23,000. So it was something stupid cheap. We were trying to sell it for $28,000. And the person I was approached by, great guy, he's still in the business, but he's like, oh, well, I can potentially help you sell it. Like, what are you thinking for a spin? I'm like, I don't know, like $500. And I didn't know. And he's like, it's not worth my time. Like, it's for $500. I'm in me not knowing anything. I'm like, well, I'm not making that much. I'm making $5,000 if we sell this place at that price. But then what I should have said is, hey, so here's what we have it under contract for. Here's what we're hoping to sell it for. What do you think is a fair price or a fair split? It's like they could have said 60-40 or 30-70, 30% coming to us, 70% going to them. Whatever it was, we should have just been like, okay, let's pursue this. And obviously, contact someone with morals and ethics who's not going to take advantage of you.
Of course.
But there's two sides of the scenario of, okay, what value are you bringing? What value are they bringing?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have their value, are you even going to be able to make a profit on this to begin with? So it's the little things like that.
And I just want to kind of, quick, sorry for cutting you off, but we should kind of like break down the different types of values that people could bring into a deal.
Yeah.
One being money.
Yeah.
Two being just the sheer, I guess, education and the knowledge of how to do the whole process of flipping a house or, constructing the whole deal.
Yep.
Three would be actually just finding the deal, like lead sourcing. If you're the one that finds it, and then bring it to, usually if you go to another investor, a lot of times they'll be open to helping you out, maybe doing a JV and just joining up and doing the property, I guess, together and splitting it 50-50.
Yep.
And your value that you brought was just finding the deal.
Correct.
I guess what would be a fourth one?
I think that pretty much, like, you went over the financing, like project management, construction, have the know-how to do it. If you're working some sort of financing component, there's that. And then if it's a larger property, just operations is pretty large on those and in managing the actual property. But like even right now for us, like I'll bring up a recent story example.
Yep.
So we contracted a place in Milwaukee, never seen it, never been there, never done anything like that with it. However, we sought out a JV partner down in Milwaukee because I'm like, I've never wholesaled a place down there.
Yeah.
They had knowledge. They were a subject matter expert in this specific area. And I'm like, 50-50 is fine. And they had like a specific term. So if we put it under contract, did the negotiations with the owner and everything like that, it was a 50-50 split because they would work on dispositioning it.
Yep.
Now, if they had to do more on their side or whatever, then it was weighted more in their favor, which is rightfully so.
Right.
But right now it's set up as a 50-50. And I'm like, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Like I don't need 100% of the deal. Like I don't know if I would have even been able to sell the deal, or probably not sell it for as much as what they would be able to get just from knowing buyers and knowing they have resources and contacts and boots on the ground and everything like that. I'm like, hey, it's better off to make something versus making nothing.
Yeah.
And get that quick win, get, again, the experience under your belt. It's like, okay, let's pursue this.
Right.
Now we can do more of those. Now I know who to contact if we ever wanted to pursue that specific area more.
Right. And I think a lot of people tend to, when they're, getting into real estate investing and everything, they see and they hear everybody getting these huge profits, $50,000, $100,000, dollar profits. And they're like, well, that's what I'm shooting for. Yeah. But in reality, getting $5,000, $10,000, even if that's split between two people, is more money in your pocket than what's in it right now.
Yeah.
So you're better off.
It's
exactly.
All about base
hits.
Yep.
And then as you get more comfortable and become more knowledgeable about the whole process, then you don't have to maybe reach out to that same investor. You can, let them know, hey, I'm going to take this one on my own. As long as you feel comfortable and confident enough, with your numbers and everything. But I think that's a big misconception when it comes to a lot of people, wanting to just stay to themselves. Correct. And not try and split the, I guess, proceeds between two other people, three other people, or however many it might be.
And there's a level of trust that obviously has to be built. I understand that. That's the importance of, working or knowing a reputable local business company, whatever industry that you're in. It doesn't necessarily even need to be real estate. But that's where, like, again, talking to people, getting out of your comfort zone, going to local meetups, networking with other individuals. It builds out this network of people that you can trust, do business with in the future. Everyone wins. It's just a happy situation versus like, oh shit, why can't I get a deal under contract? Or why can't I sell this place? Or whatever the case is. Again, bouncing the ideas off one another. Did I put it under contract for too much? Yes, no, maybe. Who knows? Yeah. And that's only time will tell. Experience definitely helps with that. But I don't know, that was kind of top of mind as of today at the time of this recording, obviously. But anything else you want to add to that?
No, not really. I mean, the biggest thing is, definitely get in touch with someone that's maybe local doing what you're looking to do, or just reaching out to us.
Yeah, we'd be more than happy to help.
Ask questions. We're more than willing to share everything that we kind of know and what we've learned, and we're still learning too. So it's not like
every day.
Yeah, we still do a lot of networking, and
it's huge.
We're learning stuff pretty much every single day. So honestly, just don't stop learning, and just keep doing your research.
Yeah,
really.
That's exactly it. Well, appreciate you guys watching as always. We are an open book when it comes to our business, what we're doing, what's working, what's not working. So if you have questions, drop a comment down below or reach out to us on any social media. Appreciate you watching as always, and we'll see you in the next one.